The two top defenses in all of college basketball going head-to-head. LSU number 1 in defensive efficiency, according to Ken Palm. Tennessee number 2. So let's talk about what Tennessee did midweek. They were terrible offensively against Ole Miss. They didn't hold the lead until they made it to overtime, but they turned over Ole Miss 27 times and pulled out 17 steals. Tennessee, another stop in the half court.
Yeah, this Tennessee team actually scored more points, or almost as many points in the overtime as they did the entire first half. Listen, there's ebbs and flows in college basketball. What makes Tennessee so good is that their defense does travel, and usually they don't turn over the basketball. They did against Ole Miss, and that's why it was so close.
Less than 12 turnovers a game for Tennessee. And the freshman, Efton Reed, went for the block. He picks up his second personal foul early in this game. It's a third team foul against LSU.
You know, Tom, I think you need to remind our viewers where you told them. You asked me where we should go before we came to ESPN2. What did I say, Tom?
I wasn't listening. We're only on ESPN News. I don't listen until we make it to the big network.
Olivier Calmois, right? And John Fulkerson. Coach Rick Barnes has always had these type of guys, Tom. He's had the Grant Williams, the Admiral Schofields, the Yves Pons, all those guys playing at the next level now. But he's played the game inside out. A brilliant coach, close to 740 wins, I think. You don't get there if you don't know your style, your identity. I think Tennessee gets back to that identity here tonight.
Calmois, 73% from the free throw line, makes both of his. Fulkerson has also already been to the line. Now Tennessee's going to pick up full court. What makes Tennessee so good defensively?
Well, one of the things is that they don't normally gamble. Now, they've got more steals this year than they typically do, but they have a prevent pack-wide defense. They're early helpers. You see, all the guys off of the ball are keeping their eyes close to them. Look how they merge to the basketball, and that's what makes it a challenge to score against the Volunteers.
And that's the opposite of what LSU does so well defensively. They pressure, they get in the wings, they get in the passing lanes, and that in turn leads to offense. Different styles, same fight.
Absolutely. The Tigers right now not able to attack quite like they want to because of the discipline for Tennessee.
Tennessee gets a lot of open threes. 49% of their catch-and-shoot threes are unguarded. Thanks, Stats by Will, for that dynamite nugget. And Vescovi knocks his first one down.
The job that Santiago Vescovi has done in non-conference and even in conference play, taking that step from last year to this year has been gigantic. Kobe Brown's the only one that's done a better job and had a bigger step in the SEC.
That's the Missouri star. He had 30 and 13 in Mizzou's home upset win against Alabama. It was the largest upset for Missouri as the underdog the last quarter century. Here's Vescovi open. How does he get so open?
Once again, playing the game inside out. All of these guys that are trying to be, you know, Klay Thompson and Steph Curry, thinking you got Draymond Green. This is collegiate basketball, and as much as the college game is beginning to emulate the NBA game, it's still better to play with your back to the basket or at least playing the game inside out, whether that be by penetration or by getting your back to the basket.
Zakai Ziegler enters for Tennessee off the bench for pro prospect Kennedy Chandler. He has been quite the inspiration. Rick Barnes says we need that DNA in everybody. Three ball goes for Brandon Murray out of Baltimore City. And we got a one-possession game.
Yeah, the 6'5", 214-pound freshman did not play in that loss at Auburn. He is a critical piece and plays the most minutes for the LSU Tigers.
Fulkerson gets tied up, dazed nearly, Vescovi. And so he'll just launch the logo. Remember, Santiago Vescovi came to Tennessee from Uruguay. His first game was against LSU. He lit him up from deep. Not only was there not a scouting report on Vescovi at that time, nobody knew who he was, barely had a nameplate on his jersey. So we know LSU's defense helps them out in transitioning with steals, but in the half court, they can get bogged down and sluggish. And Pinson bailed out thanks to the Ziegler reach-in. What's in the SEC?
It's the combination of both. I think Coach Will Wade got tired of people talking about them not guarding, but his leaders on the team were offensively minded. Javonte Smart, Tremont Waters, Watford. Those guys were really good offensively. But this year, his leadership in Darius Days, he's blue collar. These are guys that actually...
It's the one when you got to get stuff done. Tom Hart alongside Damian Fishback. SEC matchup between Tennessee and LSU, two best defenses in college basketball. A near turnover it will be. The guy Ziegler ends up with the ball in his hands. And a corner three off of that turnover before Fulkerson taps it back out. Tennessee just kind of finds its way into opponents' turnovers without necessarily a lot of pressure. And so, shots and possession. Brandon Murray to the free throw line. Product of Baltimore Polytechnic before he went to IMG. And you know when Poly goes against City, that is a big... Missed the SEC opener due to a hamstring injury and had a pretty good one last time out against Kentucky with double figures. Baltimore City Player of the Year in high school. He's been in double figures 5 times.
One of the things that I noticed about Brandon was that he's a lot bigger than you would think. I mean, you see 214. He is every bit of 214, maybe more like 220. Just strong, physical. Makes a huge difference for this Tiger team.
Ask Will Wade what he likes about him. He said, this dude always has a chip on his shoulder. He's city tough, right? He's kind of got that scowl every time he takes the court. Both teams have one of those. It's Ziegler for Tennessee. Nice turnaround, and it didn't go, but LSU on the glass. Tari Eason, who's their leading scorer while coming up the bench this year. He is instant offense.
Yeah, he's kind of like Brockington from Iowa State. He's one of the more underrated transfers. Well, Brockington, you can say both of them aren't underrated anymore. The entire country knows about them, but those two guys really, in regards to transfers, have impressed me the most.
Into the corner for another three, and James leaves it short. He's really struggling with his shot. He's only shooting 14% on open threes. And Klavchuk is going to pick up his second. It happens quickly. Good basketball rivalry for you on ABC and the ESPN app tomorrow afternoon. Easton's former team, Cincinnati, will be in Memphis to take on Penny's Tigers, who all of a sudden have some personnel issues. Jalen Duran didn't play against Tulsa due to hip injury. DeAndre Williams left with a back injury. Amani Bates supposed to come back from the finger infection. He hadn't played since December 14th. Coverage of the AAC matchup begins at 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 Pacific.
Well, Coach Penny Hardaway went back to the veterans, and it's paid dividends for him and the Memphis Tigers. Coach Wes Miller, I think, has done a nice job with Cincinnati as well. That'll be a good matchup. The question will be, will the Bearcats take care of the basketball? Memphis, phenomenal when they turn teams over 10 or more times.
What a soap opera it's been in River City, Bluff City, wherever. What do you want to call it? Not so scruffy city. But Memphis and Penny Hardaway, going even back to when they canceled the game against Tennessee, has been an ongoing soap opera. Fulkerson with the rebound.
When you talk about an ongoing soap opera, it's because of guys like that. Kennedy Chandler, when you've got 4 or 5 stars to come in, Coach Rick Barnes has a lot of veterans that actually surround him.
This is an interesting lineup, though, with both Chandler and Ziegler on the floor at the same time.
Well, he's played with the smaller lineup. He actually went with Vescovi quite a bit as well. But what I was saying was for Penny Hardaway, he's got so many of those young freshmen. I think that's what was a challenge for him, Tom.
Bucket finally goes for Alex Fudge after being challenged inside. Either team can gain an advantage in this one. The 2 top defensive teams in the country, and it's playing out like it. 11 apiece. 7+ minutes in. Dustin Powell, great shooter. And here's Chandler, future first-round pick, just a freshman. Shot clock at 3. Powell tried to go behind his back, turned it over. LSU had an opportunity to run. That was thwarted.
Well, here's that control chaos that we talked about, and these fans absolutely love it. The more this game gets like that, up and down, loose balls, kind of like the Kentucky game ended, the more Tiger fans will love it and the better off the LSU Tigers will be.
Tough shooting early on. Tennessee at 33%, LSU at 27%. Powell, no. A couple of ugly threes last couple possessions for Tennessee.
Yeah, getting out of hand a little bit. Tennessee started shooting threes, but they were playing the game inside out. Now they're beginning to get lulled into an LSU game somewhat.
Henson turns it over. John Fulkerson coming off of a COVID break. He said he won full strength last game. Doesn't look like it this game.
Are teams that are trying to be in New Orleans towards the end of the year. And these are two teams that can potentially be there. But you make a good point. They have to get better offensively. But I still think it's great that these two teams are at least starting being at the top two defensively. I think it's just been a challenge, and they've got to get better looks at the basket.
Xavier Pinson commits a foul. That is his first. And that is the fourth on LSU as a team. Brandon Huntley-Hatfield on the floor right now for Tennessee. We showed John Fulkerson going to break. He missed a game a couple games ago, but played against Ole Miss. Only played 17 minutes. I talked to him before the game, and he said, man, COVID really kicked my butt. It's stamina, it's strength, it's energy, it's all of those things. And I'm not back to 100% just yet. And he gets beat off the dribble by Pinson. And what is a mismatch anyway? And in there to clean it up is Mawani Wilkinson. How tough is that? Well, no matter what it is, when you're under the weather and you're an energy-type guy like Fulkerson, to try and find it.
Well, listen, I'm the type of person that feels like everybody across the country is dealing with the same 24 hours, right? The same 7 days a week, 365 days, and the same pandemic. And so even though it's a challenge, I think college basketball at large, coaches, players, they have to be prepared to deal with these challenges. And for John Fulkerson, it's no different. If he steps in between the lines, he's got to be ready to bring his A game. And that's what I think he's trying to do today.
I disagree with you from this segment. Yes, as a team and as a coaching staff, you have to have learned how to deal with this when it comes to personnel. But if you are under the weather and you are not 100%, more and more we're seeing it's not who you play, it's when you play them. And if Tennessee, like their first game in conference, had to play without Fulkerson and without Kennedy Chandler, that's a huge advantage to the opposition.
Sure. And that's how most people can see
it with the crossover.
As you see Pinson knock that down, but your Missouri Tigers today didn't have two of their players as well and were able to knock off the top 15 Alabama. You have to go with what you got, T-Hard.
Kennedy Chandler with the reverse. We've got consecutive buckets, I think, for the first time in this game.
We got a better tempo.
Fulkerson got thrown down by Efton Reed, and the freshman who was 6 years the junior to Fulkerson just got a veteran tutorial on how to tease somebody into a foul. It's his third.
Wow. And I wouldn't be surprised if the officials don't take a look at that one as well. You know, if you're Efton Reed, John Fulkerson is tricky now, and he has no wrongdoing in regard to this. But a lot of times if you have a big guy, then you can do that to him. But he's not going to sail across the floor like John Fulkerson. Right. John Fulkerson is one of those 6-year seniors. He is so savvy and so heady, so tricky. That was a nice job by him getting the foul on Efton Reed.
24 years old, Vescovy trying to clear some space. Home crowd. But that should have been a whistle.
And it should have been.
Two shooters on the floor, Powell and Vescovy. Shot clock is at 2. It's at 1, and Fulkerson can't get the shot away. He was swarmed by Days and Eason.
Believe it or not, and LSU's only up. That's an elbow. You got to call that all day. And then here, defensively, I think this is a good no call. He might have gotten Fulkerson, though, over Tari Eason over that right arm. This was letting them play a little bit. But at the end of the day, the more the game gets like that, it certainly plays to the advantage of the LSU Tigers.
Strong move by Eason, but off the mark, Fulkerson went flying over to the cheerleaders.
No, that's tremendous defense. Tari Eason got out of control on that particular play.
Nice pass from Vescovy, an emphatic dunk, Olivier Kamwa.
Pretty basketball. I love this on behalf of Tennessee. These are the type of environments that you try to go into a win. That's what Kansas was just trying to do against Texas Tech. These are the type of games, if you want to win championships, where you get to see the true character of your team.
That was a nifty move by Xavier Pinson, and he'll go to the free throw line.
See, this is what you do under pressure. You poise, you jump stop, pass fake, inside to Olivier Kamwa. Nice finish. You remain disciplined. You remain poised under pressure.
Pinson back to the free throw line from Chicago, played at Simeon Academy, the Missouri. Talking to him before the game, he said there's just so much more freedom in what Will Wade allows us to do. That in turn, Fish, leads to more confidence when you don't have to worry about shot selection. And you said chaotic to describe LSU defensively. Sometimes they also look like that on the offensive end.
Well, for Xavier Pinson, it's just different relationships fit different people, different friendships. And in his situation, he is a better fit for Coach Will Wade. Coach Conzo Martin, you saw that in the win today, even though they scored 80-plus points. But he is a defensive coach by nature. You see that nice finish by Eason. Will Wade is an offensive coach, and Pinson loves that.
A Tennessee turnover. The slam. LSU at its largest lead. Kamwa deep two. Rebounded by Days. They are looking to run. And LSU, fourth in the country, allowing fewer than 56 points a game. And they turn their opponent over 19 times per game.
So right now, LSU is just setting ball screens, and then when they get the switch, they're going at what they feel like is their best matchup.
Rolls home for Days, his first bucket. Rick has scored 21 of the game's last 27 points. James with the lob. They get in deep to Kamwa, but he's immediately taken over. Chandler with the drive, and they'll get Brandon Murray with his first personal.
So at that timeout, if you're Coach Rick Barnes, you had a decision to make. Do you continue to play a slower tempo and try to keep your guys poised and under control, or do you attack this pressure of LSU? He's made the decision to do a little bit of both. My guess is he told his team, we want to attack, but we want to do it under control. We can't turn it over. We can't feed this defense and allow them to get out offensively in this crowd. Let's see how Tennessee responds.
Another one coming Chandler's way. Monday, number 3, Georgia takes on number 1, Alabama, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific on ESPN. It's a college football playoff national championship game presented by AT&T. It's a little chilly in Indianapolis, but the SEC taking it over. We got pregame coverage all day. Every platform, TV, radio, digital, so many ways to watch and listen to the biggest game of the year. SEC's going from Waffle Houses to Steak and Shake for the weekend. Chandler with the takeaway. Oh, the two-hand finish. And the freshman's got 7 early to try and spark a Tennessee comeback.
Yeah, he's been up and down, but he's one of the best point guards in the country, without question, amongst freshmen this year. Makes a big play there.
East, a nice look on the back cut. Days not taking a lot of twos this season. He's been settling from deep after he got off to a hot start. Pull-up jumper off the mark, and another LSU rebound. This is Eric Gaines. What is there to like about LSU's offense in the half court?
Well, I think they're very good at taking mismatches. That's what they're doing now. You saw Tari Eason, who's about 6'7", going against 6 feet. That's throwing the basketball inside and out. The key is you put the defense at a disadvantage.
Gaines with the cut. LSU leading by 8 now. Chandler, quick first step. Thought he'd get the whistle. And it's shoved out to Vescovy, who's just 1 for 2 early on.
Nice
Shot
decision.
clock at 2. Chandler gives it up late. Vescovy. And then a whistle inside will go against LSU. And it will be the second from Darius Days.
Well, you see, Chandler once again, early help. Tennessee's always out there early to run that pack line defense, and right now the fans are livid because they thought that the foul was going in their direction, and it goes the opposite way against LSU.
So here's Victor Bailey Jr. with a one-on-one. He's got another one coming his way.
Let's take a look. This is what they're complaining about here. And there's no complaint. That's an obvious foul and reach in by Darius Days. Look, Victor Bailey, Tom, is a guy who I think amongst the scoring challenges that Tennessee has to step up his basketball game. He scored over 500 points in a couple of years at Oregon. He's a guy who could perform much better. I think he's just getting accustomed to what Coach Rick Barnes wants from him.
Comes from an athletic family. His mom, an Olympic track star. His dad, a great wide receiver at Missouri, then for the Philadelphia Eagles. Pension. Wow, gets it right back.
Cardinal saying,
what a gift.
Never save it underneath your own basket. If you're Josiah Jordan James that time, throw it to the other end of the floor or just go out of bounds with it.
Chandler benefits from the reach-in from Eric Gaines. It's the first on Gaines.
You notice good defense by Josiah Jordan James, but right there, and I see he was trying to throw it to Olivier Kamau, but you just can't take that chance. The risk doesn't really verify what the reward could potentially be. You've got to try to throw that to the other end. Verify, justify, help me out, Tom. You saw I was struggling there. Come on, man. I need point guard play over here.
Hey, sometimes you got to create your own shot. Basket interference. Eason gets another bucket. The transfer from Cincinnati has been in double figures all but 2 games, and LSU has a double-figure lead.
You've seen the change in defense now. LSU going 1-2-2. Let's see if they go back to man or back to more of a matchup zone. Let's see if there was basket interference.
Ended up going anyway. Would have been on Tennessee. So here's Santiago Vescovi. Nearly 14 points and 5 boards a game for the junior from Montevideo, Uruguay. He's got one-on-one coming. Played in the NBA Global Academy, Mexico City, and Australia when Rick Barnes found him mid-season a few years ago. So he's playing in the best shape of his life, and it's evident mainly on the defensive end. He's got 16 steals over the last 6 games.
Well, Santiago Vescovi, he told us in an interview earlier this week, I asked him, I said, why do you correct people for the last 2 years and how to pronounce your last name? And he said, I don't care, man. I just want to win basketball games. And Vescovi, he said, I kind of like Vescovi. You can call me that too.
It can get confusing. He told Bob Kessling and the radio crew last year, he said, you know, whenever I go in to pick up food that I've ordered, maybe go by Starbucks, they ask for my name, I just say Bob. You don't need my social security number. Eason with the offensive foul. It's his first.
Yeah, nice chest move that time by Coach Rick Barnes. Rick Barnes switched that time to a zone. So a zone cuts out a lot of those ball screens that LSU likes to use, and it goes ahead and positions Tennessee where they can stay in front of the basketball. And it also makes LSU display more patience, which they do not like to do offensively.
Right. LSU will trap. You never really know when it's coming, especially once it gets to the wing. Here's Chandler. And a mismatch with Pinson on Fulkerson. And offensive foul after the pass. Kennedy Chandler commits his first.
See, whether you like that or not, that is outstanding defense. And you see Kennedy Chandler, he's saying that he didn't want to come out of the basketball game. But at the same time, Coach Rick Barnes and he have continued to nurture and build that relationship. They were doing it in the game versus Ole Miss. He was going in and out. Coach Rick Barnes is tough on his point guards, but they always turn out to be tremendous players.
Only the first on Chandler. Tennessee in the zone. Quick look, Days. I always thought that Darius Days was at his best when he was getting rim looks, because he can be such an efficient offensive player inside, even though he would probably prefer to be outside on the perimeter.
Yeah, I agree with that. If he wants to play at the next level, he's got to display that he can do both effectively.
Kamwa cut off, turns it into a spin, and earns a trip to the free throw line.
Was a key for this Tennessee team. We talked about some of the players that they had before, the Grant Williams and the Admiral Schofield and the E. Pons. I think Coach Rick Barnes is trying to develop Olivier Kamwa into one of those type players. He's got a nice mid-range jump shot. He's actually extremely mobile, but I don't think he's quite there between the ears. The confidence, the aggressiveness, and consistency that he needs to really carry this team at that power forward position.
Chandler will get his break now. Ziegler replaces him at point. Olivier Kamwa from Helsinki, Finland. 6'8", 232. Spends his summer playing on the Finnish national team. LSU has made 4 of its last 5.
Tennessee's now went back to their man-to-man, and LSU now is using the ball screen. They're going to go at the mismatches. Pinson feels like he can get by Kamwa here.
It's almost like a screen got in his way, brought another big to him. Shot clock at 5 now. A hang and no hit. And Kamwa comes down with the board, and then we get a poke foul from Brandon Murray. It's aggressive LSU defense is one thing, Fish, but it's led to a lot of fouls in this first half.
Yeah, a lot of fouls, and it's also led to an LSU Tiger lead.
The College Football Playoff National Championship, Georgia, Alabama, Monday at 8 on ESPN.
Tennessee living at the free throw line. This will be their 14th attempt of the first half. 12 team fouls on LSU. Another one coming for Olivier Kamwa. You got any Finland stories? You been there?
No, I do not have any Finland stories. No stories out of me yet. We talk about the players, the stories in their lives and their families. Okay. Our stories we keep to ourselves.
Kamwa goes 1 of 2. Tennessee only shooting 33% from the field, but 11 of 15 from the free throw line. Reach in. Kamwa, it's his first.
We talked about LSU being an attacking defensive team. They're really an attacking offensive team as well. They don't like to display a lot of patience. They want it quick, which is how they got in trouble with Auburn, because Auburn is a team that wants it quick, but they have more horses that night to get it than LSU.
I thought Auburn also has great interior defense, and 43% of LSU shots come at the rim. That is tough to do against that Auburn front line.
Yeah, Walker Kessler, Jabari Smith Jr., one of the best front lines, if not the best front line in the country.
Jabari Smith Sr. played for John Brady, who's just a few seats away from us in the LSU radio crew. That foul, Milwaukee Wilkinson, his first. More SEC action will follow us. Those Auburn Tigers taking out Florida up next on ESPN2. So here's Fulkerson to the free throw line.
I talked to Fulkerson before the game, and I said, congratulations on your NIL deal. He said, well, I'm not getting that much money. You see a blatant push at the back. And he said, I said, well, one thing I like about it is the fact that you're actually giving back.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's giving $1 back is something that I think all young men and women should look at when they get the NIL.
Fulkerson commits the foul, and it's his first. You give $1 every so often, charity too?
Absolutely.
Fulkerson had a monster game in that pre-Christmas win against Arizona. He had 24 points and 10 boards. But then contracted COVID when he went back to the Tri-Cities, Tennessee, for Christmas break. Missed the Alabama game. 18 minutes, he said, limited against Ole Miss. Darius Days at the free throw line. Vescovy will return.
Right now for Tennessee, at this particular junction of the game, you've kind of absorbed the blows of LSU and their fans. So this next 2 minutes, 55 seconds, so important. Dallin talked about it in the studio. you know, if they continue to allow this tempo to be up and down, this game could really get out of hand, and they could be down double digits.
Pat Adams says Tennessee ball, but Lennox will have a chat with him, and it ended up being LSU went off of Pablo's face off of the Cara.
If there's any LSU fans out there and you want to communicate to the fans here, Pat Adams is an official that does not get rowdy.
No.
You can say what you want to say, yell what you want to yell.
No, he's been around a little bit. Floater doesn't go. Josiah Jordan-James with the rebound.
Solid defense. This is where they have decisions to make. See, I like that. Good push. It wasn't there. So stay poised, reset your offense, and make LSU guard on this end for a little bit.
Vescovy. Ziegler lets it fly. Got it.
Picture perfect offense. They tried their first offensive break. It wasn't there. Then they reversed sides of the floor and a nice three-point shot.
Ziegler hit 3 threes in the win against Ole Miss, and a corner 3 answer from Milwaukee Wilkinson. It's his second triple tonight. Ball movement, Vescovy with the fake, gives it right back. This is Chandler, back-to-back, top of the key threes for UT.
Now we finally got a basketball game, like two boxers who have finally figured one another out. On this end for LSU, you mentioned it earlier, the ability to get to the basket. Let's see if LSU continues to settle for three-point.
Where did the offense come from? Both sides had drained triples on each of the last 2 trips. That time was Xavier Pinson. Chandler open lane. And he draws the foul on Wilkinson. It's his second.
Well, this is the ball reversal that we talked about. You see how it continues to move LSU's defense. This is called putting the defense in the rotation. Obviously a beautiful job. And then on the other end, you see Wilkinson, LSU doing it in the first pass. 2 different styles on both the offensive and defensive end. And we're seeing that on display now.
So Kennedy Chandler ends up at the free throw line as you see Pinson step back go in. Chandler's the only freshman on the 20-man Bob Cousy Award list as the nation's best point guard. Freshman from Memphis, went to Briarcrest Christian and then Sunrise Christian Academy outside of Wichita. 5-star recruit, #1 point guard in the country, coming out of high school as rated by ESPN.
And I think he may have the quickest first step in the country. There's a lot of quality guards across the country, but I don't know if they have his ability to get by the defender at any time. I think Remy Martin at Kansas has an outstanding first step as well. Javon Quinterly over at Alabama.
Yeah, he's got speed.
Wendell Green Jr.
Pinson cut off. Approach the 1-minute mark in the first half. Tennessee has fought to make this a 5-point game. LSU led by 10 at one point. Look. And an LSU steal. And that's how they do it. Brandon Murray gets another bucket. It was 5 a second ago. And it's back to 9. Home crowd rises on its feet. Chandler shoves it in.
Love this young freshman. And that's how quickly LSU can make runs. They've been down in multiple games and came back and win. Actually up in this game. I look for Pinson to run this ball screen off of Eason with about 8 seconds left to go in this first half.
Pinson will get it back. There's your 8 seconds. Going a little bit later than you thought. It's all the way down to 4. Pinson does not try to penetrate. Vescovy all over him, and he has to heat it.
Tennessee switched to a zone that time. So that shows you the respect that they have for Tennessee. But at the same time, he knows they can't let up against a team like Tennessee.
LSU opening SEC play with 3 consecutive games against ranked opponents for the first time in school history. Auburn, Kentucky, and now Tennessee at home.
Well, if you saw this schedule, And if LSU were to be able to win the first 2 out of 3, I think Coach Will Wade would take that all day long.
No doubt. Lost the opener at Auburn. Here's Vescovy for 3 over Wilkinson.
Picking up where he's left off, always has had outstanding games against the Vanderbilt Commodores, and I think one of the more underrated shooters in the nation.
He plays pretty well against LSU as well, averaging 15.5 points per game in his career against the Tigers. Murray wanted to work it inside. Oh, and Murray just out of focus here to start this possession.
Well, that can happen with the LSU Tigers. Give credit to Tennessee. These first 5 minutes, they have come out, and now they're seeing looks like a 1-3-1 that LSU's running. So they've changed it up, and now they go back to man-to-man defense.
Tennessee's best offense in the first half was getting to the free throw line. Kamwa couldn't get elevation, and he left it short.
See, that's where they need patience.
Eason on the run.
That was all LSU. On the last trip, Pinson was actually guarding John Fulkerson. Tennessee didn't get a chance to see that. They shot a quick shot, and it allows the pace to go into the hands of the Tigers.
Vescovy may have gotten away with a step, at least if you listen to the folks in purple and gold. Here's Chandler. Into the corner, James really struggling on open and unguarded threes.
One thing you notice in this basketball game is there's not a lot of rim protection, if you will. And Tari Eason actually does a pretty good job of blocking shots, but both of these teams, I think, should be going to the rim unless you're knocking it down like Darius Days.
Days was hot to start the season, 64% from 3 in his first 3 games. He cooled off considerably since, and Will Wade said, we've discussed this. I think we'll see more twos from him, the ability to put on the floor, to get into the paper, and he loves the 3. Here's Vescovy.
You start out the season with 8 3-pointers and 30 points. I'd be shooting the 3 too.
That's right. Well, you did. Shot clock down to 5. Days with the takeaway after Eason poked it. Eason steps through, and he draws the foul on Kamwa.
Well, Tennessee tries to come out and play the style and tempo that LSU has played. Here's this attacking defense that we talked about. LSU doesn't care how you want to be disciplined. When you think about other teams across the country that, play with a slower tempo, you think about Wisconsin, right? A lot of teams actually in the Big Ten. But if they face a team like LSU, you're going to have to maintain that discipline for 40 minutes.
LSU gets 23 points a game off of turnovers compared to just 11 to their opponents. And we were talking to Will Wade today about this Tennessee team. Interesting that you would bring up Big Ten style. He said, they remind me of a Big Ten team. And maybe that's stereotyping Big Ten teams, but the size inside, having a quick point guard who can break you down. But otherwise, it's evident that this is an LSU team that's more athletic across the board than Tennessee. Will stay with Tennessee, trailing by 11. Just 3 minutes into the second half.
They got them rolling, don't they? You think about some of the other players in the Big Ten. You got a Johnny Davis over at Wisconsin that allows them to play
what a
little bit
he's
faster.
Yeah.
And right now for Tennessee, they need a player that can play in this style to loosen up the defense of LSU.
Plavsic with the jam. The time Tennessee has crept back into this game, LSU has answered with the flurry. Eason got shoved in from behind by James, I believe it is. That'll be his first. Well, college football playoff megacast is coming away for the national championship presented by AT&T. That is a full menu. That is like a Cheesecake Factory menu, right? I mean, whatever you want. Some things you don't even know what they are. Every platform, TV, radio, digital, so many ways to watch and listen to the biggest game of the year. SEC Network will have Eli Gold in the first half. Alabama hometown radio. The legend. He's looking for another ring. Eason has another free throw coming.
rings you think Nick Saban wants? You know,
more. The correct answer is always more.
How many do you think it would take until he said, okay, that's enough? I'm going to allow some other people to have a couple of rings.
I think as soon as he gets to the point where he's not enjoying the competition, that will be dictated more than whether or not he's got a team to win it, because it certainly didn't look like it earlier this season. Largest lead of the game for LSU in front of the largest home crowd of the season. Nearly 13,000 in the Peanut.
Right now, this pressure has made Tennessee timid. You have to be aggressive, yet poised at the same time. There you go.
Loftus. Last two possessions have ended in dunks by the Serbians. And they're going to get that one out of bounds. Wow, how did he get up so quickly?
Well, he's the difference maker. When I talked about Tennessee needing a player, you don't have to be in New Orleans to have a block party. Right here in Baton Rouge, Olivier Cromwell having one on his own. He's the guy who I think separates them from a second weekend team to potentially trying to get to the Final Four. Good hands.
Wilkinson kept it alive. Days. That's what Will Wayne was talking about. He's got to find a way to get easy buckets. That's padding your stats. If you can do that, then hit a couple from deep.
I absolutely love his basketball game.
4-on-2 for Tennessee, and Vescovy couldn't decide. The result is his first personal.
And right now you've got Wilkinson and Euros Plavsic that's actually going back and forth. They're conversating. Now, you can't allow yourself to get caught up into this crowd, into the physical play that's going on. If you're Tennessee, you have to be more poised than that.
Plavsic has drawn the ire of the LSU faithful for his activity after the whistle. LSU 50% from the floor in the second half. Pinson breaks down Chandler, went for the reach. Got his own miss. Shuffle into the corner, and a three ball for Eason. LSU is rolling. Chandler forces one. An air ball. Days high-low. Easter for a break. LSU extends the lead. Rick Barnes got to use a timeout.
His titles, his tournament appearances. But even John Brady that you mentioned, it's something about when people go to LSU, whether it's a coach or a player, they tend to truly stay around that university.
1981 and 86 Final Fours for Dale. Kennedy Chandler goes baseline, trying to get it to Plavsic, and he would muscle his way to a miss. That's how the second half has gone for Tennessee.
Well, it's gotten out of hand because they've played into the style and pace of LSU. This is what I told Coach Rick Barnes that I thought LSU would do. Go at the smaller guards of Tennessee, and that's what Darius Days does over Santiago Vescovy.
Days, the last game, only attempted 1-2. He was 3 for 11 from 3 against Kentucky and 0 for 1 from 2. Now he's gotten some easy ones inside. LSU with an 18-point lead. They've got 17.
Xavier Wheeler for the majority of that game, and even Sheway was in foul trouble, and Ty Washington goes out a little bit late. I think they're one of the hottest teams in the country, but Vanderbilt could be a sleeper.
Scottie Pippen Jr., what do you like about the Alabama guards in the second game of the night?
Oh, my goodness. I think they're the best backcourt in college basketball collectively, but the biggest piece is going to be J.D. Davidson. Can he continue to learn quick in his play?
Another LSU takeaway, and they'll get Comboff for his third personal foul. And harassing LSU defense got the knockaway with the shot clock winding down. LSU's outscored Tennessee 18-7, and they forced the Vols into 3 turnovers this half.
Well, Dallin Cuff talked about the first break. He talked about Tennessee continuing to get to the free throw line. And we talked about at the half that they almost doubled the free throws of LSU. Well, now Tennessee still has 19 turnovers, and this will be LSU's 14th turnover now from the game.
It's a 10-0 run. Murray out of Baltimore Poly, where he played for the Polytechnic Institute Engineers, Mr. Basketball in the state of Maryland, the city player of the year. He's a big Kevin Durant fan. You could expect that being from the DMV, huh?
You talked about Kevin Durant. Jay Billis, I thought he made a good point the other day. He talked about Jabari Jr. Wow, that's a lot of contact. He talked about Jabari Jr. being someone who compared. Now, he said he's not Kevin Durant. I think it's a great point, but it's been a long time since we've seen anybody that shoots it like that at 6'10". That's who you can watch in this next basketball game.
I feel like Jabari Davis, the biggest difference between when Kevin Durant played for Rick Barnes and where Jabari is now as a freshman is the size and the strength and the ability to go inside and bang.
Well, yeah, Jabari Jr., like his dad who played here at LSU, has good size, but I think being around his dad allowed him to really advance. He's played against older guys his entire time, and we'll see him matched up against Colin Castleton in Florida in the next game.
Castleton, a great shot blocker. You mentioned the fact that Jabari Davis Sr., who's a 7-footer and a real post player for John Brady, played here at LSU. Boy, they had a good team. There's Chris Blair, play-by-play voice, working next to Coach Brady. Jabari Smith, and socially distant Coach Brady on the far right. Chandler has it thrown right to him. And then taken away. LSU coughs it up again. I think Lance Dubois said it best. I've always depended on the kindness of strangers, and both teams giving it away tonight.
Well, I've seen a lot of basketball this year, and the one thing that I noticed when coming and looking at LSU face-to-face was just how big they are. And when I say big, I'm talking about the length on each player. Efton Reed, a 7-footer. You look at Alex Fudd, another 6'8", 6'9", Tari Eason, Darius Days. These guys are long, and by no means am I comparing them to Chicago Bulls, but when you get guys 6'6", 6'7", 6'8", 6'9", like a Ron Harper, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, I think those guys can switch a lot. They make it hard for you offensively, and that's what they're doing against Tennessee.
Reed is in foul trouble and gets out of the way of Popchik. With 7 points. Yeah, Efton Reed III is 7 feet tall. He's a freshman. He was 6'5" in 7th grade, and he wasn't on the basketball team. Then he got to 8th grade, and he made the basketball team, but he wasn't a starter. And he said, I guess I'm a late bloomer. He said, I just played and played in a steady progress to get to where he is now, starting for LSU, a 21st ranked team in the country. Wow. What a huge swat by Alex Fudge. He rejected the 7-footer. You will rarely see a block this emphatic on a 7-footer who's standing right in front of the rim.
Well, Tom, this is some of the length that I'm talking about. Go get it, young fella. Upstairs to the top floor. And you see where he meets him at the top of the right square. What a block. Sports Center top 10.
Fudge 6'8". He's got a wingspan of 7 feet. And he used every inch of it to pin that one against the window. Here's James, open 3. I just can't imagine from Josiah Jordan James' perspective, as much as he's struggled with open threes or even slightly contested threes, that he's shooting the ball with a lot of confidence right now.
Well, listen, basketball's a game of confidence, and right now Tennessee's struggling. But I told Coach Will Wade this from the very beginning. I said, when you face LSU, because of their length, their size, their athleticism, the first time you face them, you're going to be shell-shocked.
Yep. Fudge back out to Days. He'll pull the trigger. Fudge finds it. Days tips it in for his 14th. 19-point LSU advantage.
Tom, I told people about a month ago that I thought LSU was one of the more underrated teams in college basketball. And remember, they did not have Brandon Murray on the road at Auburn. I'm going to tell you something. I'll reiterate that. Just wondering why I didn't get the socks, man. Who haven't even talked to get socks?
Yours are way better than mine.
I've seen socks all over ESPN, and I didn't get me a sock. Who I need to talk to?
That's to be has that redirected, and they'll get a foul on Efton Reed, the third. His foul is the fourth.
Efton Reed, believe it or not, we haven't talked about him a lot. But I think he's the difference on whether LSU just goes to the second weekend or he's able to go, or they're able to go much further. When you think about some of the bigs across the country, Kofi Cockburn obviously doing another great job at Illinois. I think Efton Reed gives them an inside presence when you face somebody who's going to position them in a half-court offense.
Freshman from Richmond, Virginia, played at Stewart High School. And then on to IMG. He started at Chickahominy Middle School where he couldn't see the floor, even though he towered over everybody else. And he said he's so into film. He said, I'm very analytical. I'd love to break down the film, get the scouting reports. It usually only takes me 2 or 3 watches to pick out what the opposition is trying to do. The problem is he commits more than 3 fouls a game, and foul trouble has had him on the bench for most of this one.
This is the first time we've seen full court pressure by Tennessee. I like this decision by Coach Rick Barnes, though.
Murray gets fouled as they solve the pressure. He and Reed were roommates at IMG Academy. It's the second on Kennedy Chandler. Is Barnes playing with fire by pressuring LSU at this point, or is this 11 minutes to go and you got to throw everything out there?
Well, one thing that I wouldn't do if I'm Coach Rick Barnes is just sit on the sideline and allow this game to go in the same direction. He doesn't win 740 games doing that. So what he's deciding is, let's try some different things. Let's see if we can throw off the fluidity and the flow for the LSU Tigers. So he tried some inbound pressure that time. If I was him, I'd maybe mix it up, even try a little 2-2-1, back to a 2-3 zone, just something, because LSU doesn't like to play in the half court. They want it quick. They want it fast. So does this crowd. Anything he can do to throw them off and just get stops.
Murray missed them both. Vescovy with the rebound.
Look at that pressure. And you see Gaines, number 2 in white, moving like that. He's 6'6", quick, fast, long.
Murray commits his third. Pardon me, that's the fourth on Murray.
That Gaines was 6'6", he was more like 6'3", but you talk about the wingspan on these teams. One thing that we saw Tennessee do at the outset was go inside. When's the last time we saw that?
It's been a while. As a result, they haven't gotten to the free throw line either. And Will Wade had a great line about Eric Gaines at shoot-around today. He said, he's one of those guys that on any given night can be the best player for both teams. he giveth and he taketh away. Contrary to his in-game actions, Will Wade, as a human being, is a very chill, understated guy, and a fun conversation with you just sitting around talking ball. A little bit different once the clock starts.
That's why he walked that 4.5 miles this morning, right?
Yeah.
So he could be calm, reserved, relaxed.
Meshack hadn't played much tonight. Damon Meshack gets on the board. I was thinking maybe he has to walk 4 miles because he keeps getting the Arancini at Gino. You go to Gino, you start with the Arancini, then you go with the veal parm, the chicken parm, whatever comes next. I mean, there's a lot of walking you got to do after that. Here's Days. Offensive board, Meshack whistled for the foul, and that'll put Alex Fudge at the free throw line.
So what do we see here? What we've noticed, and I love how conference play teaches you about the teams. It shows all your warts. Now, Tennessee's had an outstanding non-conference schedule. Villanova, Arizona, Texas Tech, who knocked off Kansas. But what they're seeing in this basketball game is that the small lineup that they play, Santiago Vescovi, Kennedy Chandler, it hurts them not only on switches defensively, but the ability to finish and complete your defensive possession with the rebound when you're facing a team as long and athletic as LSU.
And there's some real size in this league. Give me one of those for you, Fish.
What's that?
Well, those big heads. Here's Fudge at the free throw line from Lee High School in Jacksonville. Speaking of Alabama football, playing for the national championship, his favorite athlete growing up was Derrick Henry, Jacksonville native. Chandler steps through. Good pass. Fulkerson got raked across the face. He just has a way of getting to the line. Fulkerson drew 4 fouls in the first half. Third on Wilkinson.
You notice, though, and we talked about going inside, what a solid screen by John Fulkerson, and there's that first step that I talked about with Kennedy Chandler. You notice how as much as we've seen LSU dominate this game, a 16-point lead, that's not a deficit that Tennessee can't come back from. They just got to get hot on the defensive end, and what else? Get to the charity stripe. We finally are now seeing them get back to the free throw line because they're taking the basketball inside.
They hit 3 consecutive threes late in the game against Ole Miss to send it to overtime, a game they didn't lead until it made it to the extra period. You can't win with Fulkerson sitting on 2 points. That's his third.
I thought he played the best game of his career against Arizona.
It was remarkable after struggling last season and the ups and downs that he had to deal with, coming back for his 6th year and doing it in front of a packed house at Thompson Bowling. And at Arizona, its first loss. Cats got COVIDed out. They were supposed to play at Arizona State. They still only have 1 loss. Wilkinson commits his 4th.
Well, now you got both teams in the bonus. LSU is a team in which they're never out of a basketball game. And if you're playing them, you're really never out of a basketball game.
Why is that?
Because LSU plays one style, one tempo. They like to get up and down. That shot by Tari Eason was just him going one-on-one, wanting to get up the shot. Not a bad look for him. But when you're up 15, 16 points, probably not the shot. You want to show some more patience. But it's how LSU plays. It's how they've won. It's how they've got the best record in the SEC over the last 3 years.
Mr. Bailey at the free throw line. And here is that pace to the tempo, and it leads to a turnover. Numbers for Tennessee. Chandler with the dump off and a finish by Kamwa.
Never out of it. So now the question is, if you're Tennessee, how many of these stops can you get in a row?
Well, the answer was going to be 2 before the foul bailed out LSU.
Oh, this is more of the defense that we talked about with Tennessee. When you penetrate, you can expect help and expect it early. You have to be strong with the basketball, and typically you need to reverse the basketball, put their defense in rotation before you can attack.
Here's Eric Gaines at the free throw line. Came in top 10 in the SEC at 82% from the free throw line. Didn't look like it on that one. Lopchich back in. James returns as well for Tennessee. And now to put Bailey on the bench.
Can't believe were they booing Euros?
Yeah, yep. They must not be as big a fan of Serbia as you are.
Well, I was about to say he's laughing at that. They throw bricks at you in Serbia. You kidding me? A boo? He's like, yeah, right.
How long did your Serbian professional career last?
A year, and I was out of there.
Long 3 off the mark. Days fouled on the rebound. He's all smiles. He's one of those throwback with the, 4-year player, number one. Number two, he's got the T-shirt under the jersey, a la Patrick Ewing, right? I mean, that's an old school look.
Yeah.
It's like we got in a time machine for this game.
Yeah, you're happy for a guy like Darius Days, though, because look, the transfer portal has hit college basketball like a tornado, and it's shifted all these teams. And with the pandemic, you've had guys that you don't know what year they're in, but I think it's all worked out because to see the performers across college basketball, we mentioned Brockton earlier, that's at Iowa State. How about Darius Days? He's one of those guys that actually stayed. He stayed home. He stayed with Coach Bill Wayne, and it has paid phenomenal dividends. And you see him doing it on all ends of the court, defensively, offensively. He's a blue-collar player.
19 career double-doubles. That's the SEC's active leader. And he's 4 rebounds away from another. Got to deal with thrown bricks in Serbia. Kind of sounds like dodgeball. Chandler off the window. He can dodge a wrench. He can dodge a ball. LSU by a dozen. Chandler's got 16. Step on the end line for an LSU turnover.
And so right now, we've seen for Tennessee, they've gotten hot defensively. And when we say hot, it's just like offensively, multiple stops in a row. So on this end, the key is just getting good looks at the basket right now. Kennedy Chandler has been the key, though. I want the basketball in his hand as much as possible if I'm Rick Barnes.
5 on 3 now for Tennessee. Good numbers. 8 LSU turnovers in the second half. Lopsic. Fouled by Days. So Tennessee took advantage of LSU's aggressive defense in the first half by getting to the free throw line. And this will be the 28th attempt. It'll be a new season high from the line for Tennessee. Lopsic used every bit of it. Not only do you have to dodge the bricks, but you can also play against pretty good competition over there. Uros Lopsic playing against guys like Nikola Jokic. Yeah, and on the national team.
Oh, it's quality basketball over there now. And you think you got passion here in the SEC. You go over to Belgrade and Serbia, and you'll see some passionate fans over there as well.
Pinson. And the rejection inside, that once but twice. Lopsic's not happy. He thought he was fouled a couple of times. Here's Chandler. In traffic, and Days ends up with it.
Yeah, too quick. Trying to go against the length of LSU. That's one I'm sure Tennessee wishes that could get back.
Tennessee's made it an 11-point game thanks to good defense and some LSU turnovers.
People assume these.
I think that they are playing as good as any conference in the country. And then, of course, Jabari Smith Jr., who they talked about coming up next. I think he's playing as good as any freshman in the country as well.
A Tennessee turnover, 3-on-1 LSU. Johnny Eason, take it easy. He's got a family.
That's the kind of stuff, seriously, in pickup basketball, we just stop playing.
Leave.
You just leave.
Pick up your stuff and go home.
Everybody just runs on the floor. After you make a play like this, oh, my goodness.
That is over a 7-footer.
Hey, look how he just looks at him and shakes his head afterwards like, yep, I just got you. I just got you. Most underrated team in the country.
Maybe not for long. Here's Lopsic.
Right back at
from
you.
Chandler.
Right? Look at Lopsic. He said that counts 2 as well.
Yeah.
Now take that, Tari Eason.
Tari Eason transferred in from Cincinnati. He played at Garfield High School up in Seattle for Brandon Roy, the three-time NBA All-Star. Here's Easton going to work. And Plotchich. Pardon me, that was Kama returning the... Oh, my goodness. He was trying to mean mug him, and then Kama slipped on the floor. Oh, no good deed or ungood deed goes unpunished.
How many cameras do we got? I hope one of those cameras caught that.
Oh, no.
Here we go. Now, I love the... Oh, that's the dunk right there.
If you're going to talk trash, make sure your feet are underneath your body, and that's what Kama did not account for.
And he's shook right now. That's okay. That's okay, young man. I like how he came back and got the block, though.
Wilkinson returns, and that'll put Fudge to the bench. Here it is.
Now, see, look at this. This is what you do. Don't put your head down. Comes back, gets the block.
He slipped after our cameras moved on. He slipped on his own wet spot.
He's trying to look at him, trying to talk stuff. Oh, that's funny.
LSU leads by 11. You know, with the emphatic plays that LSU has had, it feels like they're up 21. Here's the freshman with a shake. Little jump hook.
See, he's got to take some gigantic strides. And he'll get there. Big guys always develop a little bit later. But right now for Tennessee, you're very much in this basketball game. A 2 or 3 here, and you put some game pressure back on these LSU Tigers. Well, they're not able to play as free.
Tennessee not a great shooting night. And the foul Pinson inside.
Yeah, that was interesting right there, because when I talked to Coach Barnes, he said Texas Tech tried to use switches and post up our smaller guys. He said, if they try to do that to us, we're going to actually do that to them. That was the first time I seen Plotchich. He did a nice job of posting up Xavier Pinson from LSU. So both coaches now going in mismatches.
And so Uros Plotchich at the free throw line. Convenience store numbers, 7 of 11 on the season for Plotchich. He started his career at Arizona State. The 6'7" in school history, the first since Steve Hammer played at Tennessee. Back in the early to mid-90s. Missed opportunity for Tennessee. Benson working on Kamwa.
Yeah, they've got their mismatch.
After Plotchich got on him. Door's still open for Tennessee. 5:40 to play. Down 11. Tennessee team that came in shooting 33% from 3. At 25% tonight. Plotchich goes baseline. Right around Dave.
Big fella. They found the weakness. Right now, there's no one that is stepping up to the plate to guard Plotchich.
All 12 for Plotchich have come in the second half. Eason. Not get a clean look, but he picks it up and puts it in. Backbreaker.
You're looking at a chance to potentially cut this lead to a 2-possession game.
And now the crowd back in. Chandler gets a bump from Days. It's the 4th. Now the LSU star.
Well, and this is what I mean when I talk about LSU just gets out of control sometimes, but they're so long, so athletic. That's that controlled chaos that we're talking about. They just showed a review of that last foul, and LSU Tiger fans do not like it.
So the clock stops with 4:40 to go, and Kennedy Chandler 75% of the season with the free throw line. He accounts for 32% of Tennessee's points with his scoring and with his assists, sitting on 17.
Well, before the Ole Miss game, Tennessee actually went into ball games only turning it over 15% of their possessions. That allows them to have a solid defense because they're not taking bad shots, not turning it over. They've done a much better job in this second half.
Taking it down to 9. LSU led this game by 20, less than 6 minutes into the second half. Murray, no. Oh, my. Vescovi's got walked over by Tari Eason.
I get it back inside the Plavsic. He's been successful.
Chandler for 3, and he's fouled on the 3. It's his second on Eason. And Kennedy Chandler retreated 92 feet. He'll come back down and shoot the three free throws.
Need I repeat what I said earlier, Tom?
Yeah.
With LSU, they're never out of a game, and you're never out of the game. It's controlled chaos. And you just can't allow yourself to make body contact. The fans don't like it. But you jump to the side, jump to the left, jump to the right. You just don't want to foul a three-point shooter or jump shooter at all.
Kennedy Chandler has 3 free throws coming. He just had a veteran move. Speaking to KB Burdett, the umpire, he asked for the ball to be dried off. And Burdett said, we're drying up. They went so far as to walk halfway to the Tennessee bench to look for a towel, but didn't get it. 2 more coming.
I'm not a huge opera man, you know.
Okay.
But listening to these fans being back in this arena, kind of like the opera for me.
Yeah, I feel you. You're the Phantom. I was thinking more Adam Sandler on Saturday Night Live. That opera man, but okay.
Oh, man.
Broadway could use all the support we could find for it. Loose ball. Chandler steps through and steps right into the block from Eason. Plavsic. No. Eason, another board. He'll key the break. 3 on 2. And Pinson went down awkwardly, and he grabs his right knee on this slick floor.
My goodness. That did not look good, and he is in excruciating pain.
The player. Pinson showing up in Baton Rouge after starting his career at Missouri. The lead is 8. Vescovi has a hard time getting off shots in this one. Just 2 of 5 from 3. Shot clock at 5. Chandler to Vescovi. Ball fake, got him some space, and he drills it.
Oh, let's remember that possession right after the stoppage in play. It's almost like Tennessee gets an extended timeout. They come back out. LSU plays outstanding defense, but it's just better offense by the Volunteers.
Eason trying to get around Kamwa. Here's Murray.
Stagnant.
Force 3. Plavsic with a clear out to pull it in. 4 on 4. Plavsic can move some bodies now, and he's got a mismatch with Murray trying to guard him.
Yeah, he's a strong, physical big. Doesn't have the footwork of a Drew Timme, but he's got physical toughness, length, and size on the inside.
5-point game. James struggling with his shot, gives it up. Here's Chandler. Floater blocked from behind. Eric Gaines able to recover. 1 second remains on the shot clock.
Well, this is that attacking defense that we were talking about. They are relentless. They never stop. And Eric Gaines uses that 6'2" length and size to continue to get another stop.
Where does Tennessee go with only 1 tick remaining?
You have a catching shot. They've got size, but Plavsic doesn't have the athletic advantage to go at Easton.
Down by 5. The lob. They never get it off. LSU with the takeaway. Nice bounce. And a fantastic finish by Murray. Under 2 to play, leads back to 7. Doubled. Vescovi, another ball fake, but that one's short. Wilkinson out front to Murray. Here's Eason.
Controlled chaos.
Chandler nearly threw it away. They were leaning on Vescovi, and he's able to draw the foul.
Well, this is the control chaos that we're talking about. What it does is it allows LSU to play to their strengths. You're not going to find a more athletic team. Now, they ran into a team that's potentially more athletic in Auburn, but they didn't have their starting two-guard in Brandon Murray. I'd love to see that matchup again because Auburn didn't have Devin Cambridge either. But their length, their size, their athleticism will allow them to be in any basketball game against any opponent all season long.
That was the 5th personal on Days. And with 1 minute to go, Vescovi at the free throw line. He is money late in games. In his Tennessee career, the last 4 minutes or overtime, 42 of 44. He's got 2 coming. That doesn't happen very often.
Volunteer Faithful, I didn't say a word. If you want to reach him at, what's your Twitter, Tom?
At Damien_Fishback. Trust me. They know where to find me. They have before, and they will again.
Tom Hart said he ain't scared either.
So Vescovi makes 1 of 2, and Tennessee will set up some pressure.
Well, so if you're Tennessee here,
Tennessee almost had 6 on the floor. They had a hard time getting Plavsic out.
Well, right
go
now,
smaller lineup now.
Yeah, they got to go smaller lineup, and you got to start fouling if you don't get something 10 seconds in the backcourt or steal early. You got to extend this basketball game. You're still too close.
Murray thought he had used his dribble, and a foul from Chandler. So 4th at Tennessee's point guard. Pardon me, that was on James, not Chandler.
You think about Eric Gaines and how he's continued to thrive this year. In his 2nd year, he got a career high with 10 points over Liberty, a team that I think will be in the NCAA tournament again. And as Pinson had to step out of this basketball game because of injury, there was no drop-off. Eric Gaines was prepared, he was poised, and they bring 2 different elements. Pinson's got a little bit more experience, a little bit more comfortable with his outside shot. Gaines brings a lot more defensively.
Knocks them both down and takes the lead to double digits again. Vescovi. Tomo says, I'll shoot it. LSU says, we'll take it. What a handle by Gaines. Fudge wanted the lob, but wouldn't throw it to Eason. So we can talk about LSU, but I'm fascinated by what this Tennessee team is, Fish, because they were anemic offensively against Ole Miss. They're back to full strength now. What's the limit on Rick Barnes' team? And I guess more directly, what's their identity?
Well, they're a team that has to get back to making sure that they don't turn over the basketball. They came in averaging 12. They had 3 more than that. They got 15. They're also a team that has to figure out how they want to play. I know Coach Barnes is comfortable with them shooting the 3-point shot. I think they have to nail down which 3-point shots they want to take, and I think those have to be inside out, whether it's off of penetration, off of Chandler, or inside touches. But more than anything, This is all about LSU, and these Tigers are going to be tough to beat here in Baton Rouge.
James gives it up, and Bailey has it run out. Tigers have sought this one away. Tennessee will not bother to foul, and LSU will go to 14-1 on the season. The lone loss came against a team that's coming up next. And it'll be a 79-67 final.